Hello again, I'm Bob Colt, and we're continuing our conversations in Charlotte Public Schools. Cathy Clubb, Science Tech Book Demo. What are we talking about?
Well, the Science Tech Book is actually a new science program we're starting this year. It's a new curriculum, and it's based solely online. And so with the new technology we have, the new iPads we have, it's something that we can do both at school and at home. It has that interactive piece that the kids love. It also has the traditional aspect of the text, and all of it's just so easily accessible.
You know, science seems like it would be perfect for the iPad. And so what do you actually do? What do the kids do?
Well, there's a range of things that kids can do. They can explore on their own, and there's lots of different things they can see. There's videos, there's reading passages they can get. There's actually virtual labs, which is an interactive piece, kind of gives you that science lab, science experiment kind of feel, but they can do it on the iPad.
So they can do experiments?
Yes.
Science experiments on the iPad?
Yeah.
And so what would they do?
Well, one we actually just did with my fifth graders was we're talking about moon phases and we were talking about the seasons. And they actually had it where they could move the Earth around and see how its orbit affected and its tilt affected the different seasons. And the same thing with the moon phases.
How great. And the iPad is really a tool, like books, to help kids learn, but much more interactive.
Yes, yes.
And so it's a big investment for the school district to do this in technology, but really to keep up with other kids and to really do the latest in science. It's a great tool. And so how you come in and you say, here's what we're doing today, and you kind of take them through a program. They do experiments, homework.
Yes, you can do home assignments. You can opt in or out of doing it. They can actually do reading assignments at home, and it can be structured or less structured as needed. So if you just want them to explore a certain section, you could say, just look at the seasons section.
So how do you determine that with the individual kids? Do you do it on a classroom basis of the level that they're going to be exploring science?
Yes, because there's actually pre-assessments they can do, which kind of gives me a baseline of where they are, and I can cater to whatever the individual student may need or whatever the group may need, or there's something that I want the whole class to know. I can assign it to the entire class.
Okay, so they're kind of going through this whole classroom experience. If they're doing their own program at their own level, you can let them go. And it happens with the iPad, and you kind of have to look over their shoulder to make sure that they're doing the assigned material and keeping up and have any issues that go on. But what is the iPad and what does this really do? How does it really help kids? Explain that to parents.
Well, with science, the thing is we base it off of there's an inquiry method where students explore the world around them and they discover through exploration. And so this caters to that. They can do this exploration, but it's something that's very reachable to them. And with the technology piece, it's very much what this day and age is about. So it kind of combines the two, that inquiry and that exploration piece with, the technology piece that the kids know so well.
And so they're exploring the universe?
Yeah.
And what else can they explore?
It just depends on the grade. Whatever, I know my kids, we just worked on the solar system and the universe. We're actually going to talk about the body systems. There's force and motion, pretty much anything.
Boy, the body system would be great. They actually travel through the body on their iPad. And so you really have to determine if it's the right level of instruction for those students. How do you do that?
With that pre-assessment comes part of it. Also, I will start, there's usually something we'll do as a whole group as together that engage instruction piece at the start. And it kind of gives me an idea of who can go farther, and I can give them some more challenging pieces, and who just needs to focus on the basics. And I can then from there, because I'll float around the room and I'll work with the kids, and I can go and just with like a click of a button, I can actually give them different assignments.
Well, this must be a lot of fun for you, too.
Yes, I like the technology piece of it and how easily accessible everything is.
Yeah.
That's great.
And so this is a tech book, but it's an iPad, and the book part is sort of incorporated. Do you have to coordinate, or how do you review the programs and coordinate that into your instructional program?
Basically what happens is it's preset for the different grade levels, and depending on what we want to focus on as a school, we have our grade level discussions, and we plan out what we want to pick from each thing.
So you pick and choose from a library of choices
Exactly.
that you want to go to,
Yeah.
all age appropriate for what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do you make that selection?
I base it quite a bit off the kids and what I see their interests are. If they like the videos with that, the demonstrations, or if they like the videos with the kids interviewing, I kind of base it off of what I see them interested in.
And so what are kids interested in?
They love to actually be able to manipulate. And so the virtual labs that they have on the tech book is great because they can actually move the pieces around, and maybe not necessarily having to do a hands-on, science experiment. They can see, and it's just right at their fingertips.
So tell me why. Why do you do this? I mean, obviously there are probably some other classroom resources that you could use, but why go to a science textbook?
I think half of one of the most important things I would have to say is the fact that when we have textbooks, traditional things in the classroom, the kids can't necessarily take them home. You can't take the textbook home all the time, especially when you were with the lower grades. And it's a lot when you have all the weight of the books and all that. I remember in high school just carrying all the books. It's so much easier for them to get to it. And a lot of them, I have kids that I go right up until the last minute of science and they're still asking me questions. And they just want to know so much. They can keep going at home if they want to, and if they're able to. If they have an internet connection, or if they go to the library, they could do it. It's just like right there for them.
This must be a new and different experience for parents, watching their kids bring the iPad home and really doing stuff interactively. So how do you encourage their support?
Really the communication piece is most important. Making sure that when you have your normal communication, the newsletters that you send home, or the emails you send to parents, or the calls, just giving them the information, saying this tech book is something that you can check every day. It'll show exactly what we're working on. It keeps you up to date as well as your students.
I would imagine it's a great way to measure a student's progress too. I mean, you can really see what they're doing and how they're doing it. And have you found it so far so good?
Yeah, the assessments that they have, there's a huge amount of assessments that you can do. You don't have to do all of them, but you can pick and choose what you like. You can customize your own assessments, and the kids can actually go back and review those assessments after they've taken them and take them again, and actually not only take them as a test, but learn from maybe some of the errors or some of the misconceptions they've had.
Yeah. And so how are kids struggling with any part of this technology?
Really, I think the kids are doing better than I am. I mean, I kind of grew up in the age where it was like that halfway between. I just started getting into technology, but the kids have been around it so much that they are actually teaching me new things.
Yeah, and fast. And so they can speed through at their own pace a lot of the instructional stuff. So if you have them excited with this new technology, are they getting excited about science?
Yes, I have been amazed by just how much they want to know, and it's not just, well, when's science going to end? When's that time over? They want to keep going, and we have our recess right after science, and the kids will actually go into some of their recess time, and I have to try and stop them because they're just so into it.
Well, that's great. So you've really energized a lot of young people into science. And so how do they take this forward? From the experience in your class, how do they move it forward in their learning experience? How do you think it's going to pay off for them?
I think the fact that it is something that they find personal interest in, and it's not just another class to them, that personal piece to them makes it something that will stick with them. And as they get older, that small little piece of interest grows and grows and grows and becomes more specific as to what they may want, and maybe we'll have some future scientists because of it.
Future scientists, or kids just interested, or it's part of the learning experience. And so as kids get excited and they take the new technology home, are they sharing it with others? How does this promote what Charlotte does in a very special way?
I think the great thing about it is that all they need is a login, and so if they know someone who maybe doesn't go to Charlotte, or they want to show their aunt or uncle something they saw one day at school, they can log in and they can show them, and then that word spreads. And the fact that it is Discovery education that has to do with, the Discovery Channel and all that is involved with that, it's something that will gain a lot of popularity in a positive way.
And each kid kind of has their own login and their own program that's saved, and they can go back and use as a resource.
Mm-hmm.
And so, where do you find the biggest interest right now from young people?
The biggest interest, well, right now, I think for my group, because we've worked with that solar system piece, they wanted to know kind of what's beyond our galaxy, what's beyond our solar system, and know about more in the universe, because they've been finding that extension piece, the elaboration piece that's on the tech book, and it kind of goes into what other galaxies there are, and how we've used telescopes to explore the other galaxies with the new technology we have.
Is there kind of like an aha story of a kid who's kind of used this technology now in science and it's really brightened their future and interest?
I think I've had a lot of aha moments, it feels like, but there was one where we were we did a little bit with the tech book, and then we came back and had a discussion, and they were watching some videos on telescopes, and a couple of them asked, well, I know there's the telescope in the space station out. Are there any other telescopes out in outer space? And we started talking about the Voyager and how it had gone out into outer space, and we were able to see the planets on the outer edge of the solar system. And a lot of them said, well, where did it go? Can we get the signal anymore? And just seeing how they wanted to know more and more about it was an aha moment for me.
Yeah, so these are all conversations with students and questions you're responding to that aren't in an academic schedule or program. You're kind of going to where the kids want to take you.
Mm-hmm. And it all kind of fits into the curriculum still. It doesn't push outside of that, but it kind of enriches what they already know.
So when you sit back and compare this with a more traditional science program, science educational program, what do you see as the real positives and advantage?
I think the positive piece obviously is that technology piece, that the great thing about the technology is that if there's something new that comes out, they can update that, and it's not going to stay in a textbook and become out of date over time. And so it will constantly renew and revamp itself, and we will have new access to those materials.
How do you think we keep up with the technology? I mean, the technology turns over all the time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So that's kind of going to be a challenge too for schools to put the newest technology that's usable and a great experience into the hands of young people. Mm-hmm. But they're kind of leading this charge, aren't they? They're demanding it because of its success. So you can plan a program, but you can't really plan to get that technology. The school system is doing it. How do you encourage them to explore more?
Well, I think the fact that Charlotte has taken on doing that iPad initiative is very, very important. To take that one, that's a huge step to take, and make it so easily accessible, and make it something that's in every classroom, that every student has access to. Taking that initial step and opening up and finding some new technology is the biggest part for me, I think.
Well, for you and the students, as you said, probably adapt a little easier to the program and the technology. How do we make sure that teachers are up on the latest programs and technology?
Well, the great thing about the Discovery education system is that they have what they call the DEN, which I believe is called the Discovery Educator Network. And it's something that educators can access through Discovery Ed. So we have a lot of professional development opportunities where we can meet with other teachers online and like blogs, things like that, discussion forums, We can actually sit down with our own colleagues at our district, and we can record this information and actually give it to other districts. So we're communicating across the board, across the state.
So this is exciting for you too.
Mm-hmm.
And so how has it enriched your teaching experience?
I think the fact that it's just, there's so much opportunity and there's just so much out there for me. I have barely even touched the surface of it. I feel like I can do so much more with the Discovery Educator Network, and I can communicate with other teachers with just the click of a button is a huge deal for me as a teacher.
Do you kind of feel like the curtain's been raised and you see all the opportunity? This must really be exciting for you.
It is. I think every time that we get to use this and every time I get to use it personally, I learn something new every day.
Yeah. So as kids come home and parents see that they're using new technology in an educational environment, it's kind of a little different from the technology uses we've had in the past. You're really channeling that new stuff toward an educational opportunity. And it's sparking great interest by the kids, isn't it? I mean, you've talked about the subjects. What do you hope that it does in the future? How do you think it'll change young people?
I hope that it becomes an outlet or in a way that students can see that technology can be a great way to advance their own education, and where they can take the next step and they can be their own, not be their own teacher, but they can further their own education whenever they want to. They have it always with them, and they can push themselves however far they want to go.
But we're not putting teachers out of business.
Exactly, exactly. The teachers are still there as that facilitator, where they can help them scaffold where they need to go, maybe encourage them to go one way or another, and kind of be that structure that they need, that rock that they need sometimes.
But now that you're stepping out of structure, you must have 1,000 decision points for each student to lead them in the right direction here. That's challenging for you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because the students they don't all learn at the same pace, so that differentiating their instruction is a huge deal, and I think it challenges us as educators in a positive way, where it makes us really much more active thinkers and trying to figure out where our students are at for every little piece of information.
So this is actually a different experience than how you learned to teach.
Mm-hmm. I've learned, and I am a recent graduate from education, so even in the couple years that I've been new to teaching, I've learned a wealth of information that's new.
And so what do you hope to accomplish in the future? I mean, if you're to check off some goals or things that you want to accomplish in this school year, what do you still want to do?
I think I want to make sure that I don't fall into that same, because you can sometimes still fall into a routine when it comes to even just the tech book. So I want to make sure that I'm constantly looking for new ways to give them that information, so that they know so much more about different ways they can learn, not just watching a video, which is great still, but there's hands-on activities they can do that is like an actual science experiment. There's those virtual labs. There's the articles that they have. There's actually a streaming network where they can actually find like a magic school bus or things that I remember as a kid. So trying to always find that new piece of information, that new way to deliver it, to give them a new resource.
Well, science is certainly exciting. When a young person moves to be a scientist at a university level, they also have to know some models and other things. That's probably a little more technical for kids at the age that you're dealing with, isn't it? But they're probably able to embrace it with this technology a little more.
Mm-hmm. It becomes a little bit more something that they can understand when it is in a format that seems familiar to them. And so the technology is new, but at the same time familiar, because it puts it in a way for them to understand easily.
Yeah, and so as they move through a program, and you move through this year, there's great interest, but how, if you have assessment tools, how are you actually going to sit back and say, gosh, I did so much better this year with this tool than I have in previous years? How do you tell people that it works?
Well, it's like that with that assessment piece. You can do assessments throughout that are formative, that kind of build up, and then you can do you could compare the same assessments from last year and have this new group of students try that same assessment and see that increase in success. I mean, I did an assessment last year for the solar system parts and an assessment this year, and I'm seeing a vast improvement in how much they've retained in the knowledge.
What a great testimonial that it really changes and helps students learn more with the technology. Well, Cathy Clubb, thank you very much for being with us. Is there anything else we want to say?
I would just love for parents and students to continue to explore. Don't just do it in the classroom, just to keep looking at it, and it's so just to log in anytime.
Well, Cathy, thank you very much. I'm Bob Colt, and we'll continue our conversations in Charlotte Public Schools.